Imagine you wake up, not with a jolt, but with a quiet stillness that feels wrong. The room is yours, bathed in the familiar gray light of dawn. The chair in the corner holds the ghost of yesterday's clothes. The scent of old books and dust hangs in the air, a perfume of your own history. But as your eyes adjust, you notice it. A single, impossible detail. Perhaps it's a photograph on your bedside table, a picture of you, smiling, standing next to someone you have never met. Or maybe it's the window. You've looked through it 10,000 times, but today, the street outside is subtly different. The old oak tree is gone, replaced by a sapling that couldn't possibly have grown overnight. Your heart doesn't race, not yet. Instead, a cold, slow dread begins to creep from the pit of your stomach. You dismiss it, of course, a trick of the light, a remnant of a dream. You get up, shake it off, and begin your day. The coffee tastes the same. The news on the radio is the usual drone of distant tragedies and local politics. And yet, the feeling lingers. A splinter in your mind, a single discordant note in the symphony of your life. You go to work, you speak with colleagues, you perform your duties with the muscle memory of 1,000 repetitions. But underneath it all, a question whispers. What if the photograph is real? What if the tree was never there? This is the moment where the path of your existence forks. In one direction lies the comfortable, well-trodden road of dismissal. You force the anomaly down, bury it under the weight of routine, and convince yourself it was a fleeting moment of madness. The world solidifies around you once more, its walls reassuringly firm. You forget the question. But on the other path, you hesitate. You allow the splinter to remain. You start to look closer, not just at the photograph, but at everything. You start to notice other inconsistencies, other hairline fractures in the edifice of your certainty. The way a friend recounts a shared memory that you recall completely differently. The sudden gut-wrenching realization that a core belief you've held your entire life, about love, about success, about your own identity, doesn't actually feel like your own. It feels inherited, installed. Who wrote the code for your convictions? When did you sign the terms and conditions for this specific version of reality? We live our lives under the assumption that we are the authors of our own story, the captains of our own ship. We believe we perceive the world as it is, making rational choices based on a clear and objective assessment of facts. This is the grandest illusion of them all. The truth is far more unsettling. Your reality is not a window through which you view the world. It is a portrait, painted for you, long before you ever learned to hold a brush. It is a meticulously constructed architecture of assumptions, biases, and narratives handed down to you by your culture, your family, your education, and the silent, pervasive pressures of society. You didn't build this prison. You were born into it. Its walls are invisible. Its bars are made of unquestioned thoughts. Its guards are the fear of judgment and the comfort of conformity. So, how can you be sure that the life you are so fiercely protecting is genuinely yours? What if the goals you pursue with such passion were not born from your heart, but whispered into your ear? What if the fears that paralyze you are not your own, but the echoes of a generation past? This is the great and terrifying question that lies dormant in the heart of every human being, the quiet suspicion that we are all living out a script we never read, performing a role for an audience we can never see. And the most profound paradox is that the tools we would use to investigate this possibility, our logic, our senses, our very consciousness, are themselves products of the very reality we seek to question. It's like trying to see the flaw in your own eyeball or using a crooked ruler to measure its own crookedness. Where do you even begin when the very ground beneath your feet might be part of the illusion? We move through our days, convinced of the solidity of our world while standing on a trapdoor. The vast majority of us will live and die without ever looking down, without ever daring to test the floorboards. We choose the comfort of the familiar narrative over the terrifying freedom of the unknown. We choose the symphony, however discordant it may feel, over the deafening silence of starting anew. But that splinter of doubt, that impossible photograph, it never truly goes away. It waits. It waits for a moment of crisis, of heartbreak, of profound stillness, to whisper its question once more. Why have you never questioned this? The answer is not simple, and it has nothing to do with intelligence or weakness. It lies deeper, woven into the very fabric of our psychology and the philosophical bedrock of our existence. It is a problem so fundamental, so hidden in plain sight, that it controls everything we do, think, and feel, without us ever knowing it's there. To find it, we must first understand the roots of our own certainty. The roots of your certainty are not planted in the solid ground of objective truth. They are sunk deep into the fertile soil of a biological imperative. The hidden problem is this: your brain is not designed to see reality. It is designed to create a reality that helps you survive. It is a coherence machine, a pattern detector, a relentless storyteller. From the moment you are born, it begins its monumental task: to take the chaotic, overwhelming flood of sensory data and weave it into a stable, predictable narrative. A story in which you are the protagonist. This story is your reality, and your mind will protect this story at all costs for a simple reason: to lose the story is to lose yourself. It is a form of psychological death. The ancient philosophers understood this better than any neuroscientist. Over 2 millennia ago, Plato gave us the most enduring metaphor for our condition: the allegory of the cave. He asked us to imagine prisoners, chained since birth in a deep cavern, able to see nothing but the cave wall in front of them. Behind them, a fire burns, and puppeteers walk back and forth, casting shadows on the wall. For the prisoners, these flickering shadows are not representations of reality. They are reality. It is all they have ever known. Their language, their culture, their entire system of belief is built around the dance of these flat, two-dimensional figures. Now, imagine one prisoner is freed. He is forced to turn around, and the firelight sears his eyes. He sees the puppets for the first time, and is told they are more real than the shadows. It's a painful, terrifying disillusionment. If he is dragged further, out of the cave and into the sun, the brilliance of the true world would be so overwhelming he would be blinded, wishing only for the familiar comfort of his dark, simple prison. We are all born in this cave. The puppeteers are our culture, our media, our political systems, our religions. The shadows are the narratives they project, the meaning of success, the nature of love, the definition of a good life. But the architecture of the cave is not merely external. The great psychologist Carl Jung proposed that we are born with the blueprints for the cave already etched into our minds. He called this the collective unconscious, a shared inheritance of psychic structures or archetypes that have been formed over eons of human experience. These are the primal patterns of the hero, the mother, the trickster, the shadow. Your mind doesn't learn these stories from scratch. It is predisposed to recognize them, to fit the chaos of life into these pre-existing molds. This is why you resonate so deeply with certain myths, movies, and legends. They speak a language your soul already knows. It's also what makes you so susceptible to manipulation. A narrative that taps into a powerful archetype, like a politician casting themselves as a savior hero, can bypass your rational mind entirely, appealing directly to the ancient, story-hungry parts of your psyche. This is where the philosophical insight of Friedrich Nietzsche becomes so chillingly relevant. He declared that there are no facts, only interpretations. There is no single objective reality, only perspectives, locked in a constant struggle for dominance. The reality you inhabit is simply the winning perspective, the story that has, through power, become so entrenched that it is no longer seen as a story at all, but as simple, common sense. The Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci called this cultural hegemony. It is the process by which the powerful convince the powerless to adopt a worldview that serves the interests of the powerful. They don't need whips and chains when they can control the very language you use to think, the very ideals you strive for. They build the cave and you decorate your own cell, believing you are exercising your freedom. This is why questioning your own reality feels so profoundly dangerous. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's an act of rebellion against the deepest structures of your own mind and the society you live in. When someone challenges a core belief, your politics, your religion, your identity, your brain doesn't register it as a debate. It registers it as an attack. Your heart rate increases, adrenaline flows, your fight or flight response kicks in. You are not just defending an idea, you are defending the structural integrity of your world. You are defending the cave. Because what lies outside? The blinding sun. The chaos of infinite perspectives. The terror of having to build your own meaning from scratch, without a blueprint. So we cling to the shadows. We argue for our limitations. We become the willing guardians of our own prison, lashing out at any freed prisoner who returns to tell us that the world is more than dancing silhouettes on a stone wall. This architecture of belief is not a passive backdrop. It is an active force. A ghost in the machine that quietly steers your hand, your heart, and your history. And its consequences are written not in philosophical texts, but in the very fabric of your daily life, in the opportunities you miss, the relationships you sabotage, and the silent anxieties.
So let's talk about those
consequences. The missed opportunities, the sabotaged relationships, the anxieties that hum beneath the surface of your life. These are not random misfortunes or personal failings. They are the predictable outcomes of a system running on default settings. They are the ghosts in your machine. That career you never pursued because a voice in your head, a voice that sounded suspiciously like a parent or a teacher, told you it wasn't practical. That was the cave wall whispering its limits. That relationship that fell apart because you kept repeating a pattern of behavior you swore you'd abandon? You weren't choosing to do that. You were running a script, a pre-installed emotional program downloaded from your past. That persistent low-grade feeling that no matter what you achieve, it's never enough. That is the ache of a soul trying to win a game it never chose to play, by rules it never agreed to. The power of this unseen architecture lies in its brilliant, self-sustaining design, policed by the cognitive biases hardwired into your brain. Chief among them is confirmation bias. This isn't just a tendency, it's the master architect of your echo chamber. Your brain does not passively observe the world. It actively hunts for evidence that confirms the reality it has already built. It's why, once you decide you are unlucky in love, you will magically find yourself dating a string of incompatible partners, while being completely blind to the kind, stable person right in front of you. Your brain literally filters them out of your perception because they don't fit the narrative. This bias dictates the articles you click, the people you trust, and the data you accept, creating a feedback loop so seamless and complete that your personal cave starts to feel like the entire cosmos. You are the protagonist of a movie where the director has ensured you only ever see the scenes that prove the script is true. When a piece of information so jarring it cannot be ignored manages to slip through the cracks, a friend's betrayal, a sudden job loss, that impossible photograph on your nightstand, another guardian rushes to the front lines. Cognitive dissonance. This is the searing mental pain of holding two contradictory ideas in your mind at once. The world is safe, and something terrible just happened to me. Or, I am a good person, and I just did a hurtful thing. The discomfort is so intense, your mind will do anything to resolve it. And its preferred method is not to change the belief, which is a structural support beam of your reality, but to change the perception of the event. So, the betrayal becomes a misunderstanding. The job loss becomes their fault, not mine. The hurtful act is rationalized as something they deserved. You become a master storyteller, inventing elaborate justifications to patch the cracks in your wall, rather than admitting the wall itself might be flawed. It is the very engine of self-deception, working tirelessly to keep you comfortable within the known. This process is so powerful that it carves literal pathways in your brain. Through a process known as neuroplasticity, your thoughts and experiences physically change your neural structure. When you repeatedly think a thought or engage in a behavior dictated by your cultural conditioning, you strengthen the neural circuits associated with it. The narrow footpaths of childhood belief become the 8-lane superhighways of adult conviction. The logic of the cave becomes automatic, reflexive, and profoundly efficient. Meanwhile, any thought that deviates from this path must carve a new trail through an untamed neurological wilderness. This is why changing your mind is so hard. It isn't just a matter of willpower, it's a matter of physical effort. You are literally fighting against the well-worn grooves of your own brain, grooves that were etched there by a world that had a plan for you long before you did. The urgency of this predicament cannot be overstated. This isn't just about missing out on a promotion or having a dysfunctional love life. On a societal level, these shared caves of belief are responsible for our most intractable problems: political polarization, systemic prejudice, and our collective inability to solve existential threats. We are societies of people, staring at different sets of shadows, screaming at each other that our shadows are the real ones. We are trapped in a prison we cannot see, built by forces we do not understand, and guarded by the very mechanics of our own minds. It feels like a perfect, inescapable system. Your biology, your psychology, and your society all conspire to keep you exactly where you are. So is there any hope? Are we doomed to live and die in the cavern of our inherited beliefs? What if the architect of the cave, in its elegant design, made a fatal error? What if the very tool used to construct the prison, the mind's infinite capacity to be molded, is also the only tool that can be used to dismantle it? The key isn't to find a map to the exit. It's to realize you were the cartographer. To realize you are the cartographer is the beginning of all freedom. The map of your reality feels ancient and immutable, its continents of belief and oceans of fear drawn in indelible ink. But the ink is not indelible, and the map was drawn by a younger version of you, with a trembling hand using instructions given by others. The radical shift, the first true step out of the cave, does not begin with a heroic act of rebellion. It begins with a quiet, devastatingly powerful admission. 3 simple words: I don't know. This is the Socratic revolution, not a quest for better answers, but the courage to fully inhabit the questions, to look at your most cherished beliefs about your country, your career, your God, yourself, and to gently, honestly say, I don't know if this is true. In that moment of not knowing, the chains loosen. The shadows on the wall flicker and lose their authority. For the first time, you have withdrawn your consent to be imprisoned. From this space of profound uncertainty, you can begin to cultivate the single most powerful tool for liberation: metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. This is the practice of developing a second awareness, a silent observer that sits behind the chattering narrator in your head. It is the part of you that can watch anger arise without becoming anger. It can observe a self-limiting thought without believing it. It can feel the pull of an old habit without obeying it. This is what the Stoics called the inner citadel, and what Eastern traditions call witness consciousness. It is not complicated. It is the simple act of turning your attention inward and asking, what is my mind doing right now? As you practice this, something miraculous begins to happen. You start to see the puppets. You notice the scripts. You see the emotional chain reactions for what they are, not mandates, but suggestions. You realize you are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. This is the beginning of rewriting your own mind. Once you can see the scripts, you must actively defy them. This is where you harness the power of neuroplasticity. You must intentionally do the things your old map tells you are impossible or dangerous. If your internal reality is built on the belief that you are socially anxious, you must force yourself to make eye contact and say hello to a stranger. It will feel terrifying. Your entire nervous system, running on its old programming, will scream in protest. But in doing the uncomfortable thing, you are sending a powerful signal back to your brain. The map is wrong. You are carving a new neural pathway with the machete of deliberate action. Each time you act in defiance of the old script, you weaken the old pathway and strengthen the new one. Think of Galileo. He had a story, a 2,000-year-old story from the church and all of science, telling him the sun revolved around the earth. But he also had a direct experience through his telescope. He chose the terror of trusting his own observation over the comfort of the collective reality. Every act of breaking your own patterns is a Galilean act of courage. You can supercharge this process by changing your language. Your identity is a story, and stories are made of words. Stop saying, "I am an anxious person." Start saying, "I am a person who is currently feeling the sensation of anxiety." The first statement is a cage. It is a declaration of a permanent identity. The second is an observation of a temporary state. It creates a space between you and the feeling. You are no longer the prisoner of the emotion. You are the observer of it. This simple linguistic shift, practiced consistently, begins to dissolve the architecture of your limitations from the inside out. You are not rewriting the story. You are realizing you are the author, and you can pick up the pen whenever you choose. These are not easy steps. They are a declaration of war against your own comfort zone, against the gravity of your conditioning. But this is how you reclaim control. This is how you stop being a passive spectator of your life and become its active architect. You are discovering something revolutionary, that your internal state is not a reaction to the world, but the very lens through which you create it. You are seizing the means of reality production. With these tools, the embrace of uncertainty, the practice of observation, the courage of deliberate action, and the power of language, you can begin to dismantle the walls, brick by invisible brick. But breaking free from the cave is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning. What awaits you in the blinding light of the sun is not just a new reality, but a new understanding of what reality itself even means. It is the final, most powerful realization of the mouth of the cave, your eyes adjusting to the blinding light. And you wait for it, the grand reveal, the sight of the true reality you fought so hard to reach. But as your vision clears, you are met with the most profound paradox of all. There is nothing to see, or rather, there is everything. A chaotic, shimmering, infinite ocean of pure potential. And the final, most powerful realization washes over you. The journey was never about escaping a false reality to find the true one. It was about realizing you are the creator of all of it. The cave, the shadows, the chains, and the blinding sun outside. They are all constructs of consciousness. Your consciousness. This is the paradigm shift that redefines everything. You are not a camera, passively recording an external world. You are a projector, and the world you experience is the film you are running. The universe does not happen to you. It happens through you. Reality is not a noun. It is a verb. It is an active process of creation that you are engaged in, every single moment of every single day. And with this insight, the struggles of your past suddenly become clear. All that pain, that frustration, that quiet desperation you felt inside the cave, it was not caused by the fact that the shadows were fake. It was the friction generated by a creative, fluid consciousness being forced into a rigid, prefabricated mold. It was the agony of an artist being told they could only paint by numbers. It was the suffering of a god who had forgotten it was a god and believed it was merely a cog in a machine. The great psychiatrist Viktor Frankl discovered this truth in the most hellish of conditions, a Nazi concentration camp. Stripped of everything, his family, his home, his dignity, he realized there was one final human freedom that his captors could not take away, the freedom to choose his response, the freedom to decide what meaning he would assign to his suffering. In that abyss, he found the ultimate power, not the power to control the world, but the power to create his experience of it. This is the freedom that awaits you outside the cave. It is not a world without pain or chaos. It is the realization that you have the ultimate authority to decide what it all means. The events of your life are the raw material, the paint, the clay, the uncarved block of marble. But you, and only you, are the sculptor. You decide if it becomes a tragedy, a comedy, a lesson, or a masterpiece. This dissolves the final illusion, the separation between you and the world. The idea of a lonely, isolated you bumping up against a cold, indifferent it. The consciousness that is looking out through your eyes right now is not some small, fragile thing born a few decades ago. It is the same fundamental awareness that has been lighting up the cosmos for billions of years. As the philosopher Alan Watts so beautifully put it, you are not a stranger here. You are not something that came into this world. You came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You are the universe experiencing itself. That feeling of awe you get when looking at the stars, that is the universe becoming aware of its own magnificence through you. That deep pang of love you feel for another, that is the universe connecting with itself. The prison was never the cave. The prison was the belief that you were separate from the art gallery. You are not the visitor. You are the artist, the canvas, and the masterpiece all at once. This changes everything. It means that every thought you think is a brushstroke. Every choice you make is a line in the great poem of your life. Every moment you are alive is an act of creation. The responsibility is terrifying. And the freedom is breathtaking. This journey of questioning reality is not an intellectual game. It is the most sacred and important work a human can do. It is the process of waking up to your own power. And that is why we are here, to walk this path together. To be the freed prisoners who return to the cave, not with arrogance, but with compassion, holding a light for others who are ready to see. To be a community of cartographers, sharing the tools to draw new and more beautiful maps. To constantly ask the deep questions and to have the courage to live in their unfolding mystery. So the only question left is, now that you know you are the artist, what masterpiece will you create?